the talking donkey, talking ass or female donkey. That is the subject, or one of the subjects of our talk today. Our talk today concerns the account in the book of Numbers of the pagan high priest named Balaam, who came to curse Israel and was forced by God Almighty to bless them. And this incident has significance concerning the identity of the lost 10 tribes of Israel and the future of Israel, and it is interesting. Present account is in the present account we will concentrate upon the narrative side of the story and briefly tell you what happened, and in another talk, God willing, we will go through in detail the prophetic significance of what this prophet said. And now too, we will also tell you, give this over in a very brief form. So our story tells us, the section is taken from the book of Numbers, chapter 22 to 25, and it tells us how Balak, the king of Moab, hired Balaam, the pagan high priest, to try and curse Israel. Instead of cursing, Balaam was forced by God to utter prophetic blessings. And the Israelites had come out of Egypt. They had gone through the wilderness, received the Torah, and they were now standing on the borders, and the borderlands, one could say, before they were about to cross over the Jordan and enter the land of Israel. This was in the region of the kingdoms of Moab, of Ammon, of Edom, and also of the Midianites. And these peoples were afraid that the Israelites were about to conquer them. And indeed, the Israelites were about to take a portion of those lands and to leave Moab, Ammon, and Edom as small enclaves within their overall empire. Because the promised land of Israel, according to the Bible, extends or should extend from the Nile to the Euphrates River and take in a good portion of the Middle East. And these nations up until then had been quite powerful and influential, and they were apprehensive and fearful because they didn't know what they were up against, and they saw the people coming up out of Egypt, a large number of them, and conquering and defeating other nations, and heading towards their territories with the declared intention of conquering them, or at least of conquering the lands adjoining them. And they were Israelites, and Israelites have a tendency that they are hated automatically for being what they are. Israelites are hated by non-Israelites. Gentile nations hate the Israelite peoples. They hate the Jews, and they also hate descendants of the lost tribes of Israel. The world hates the Americans and the English and related peoples, not because they have done anything to them, but because of what they are. Because they are somehow different, and they simply do not like them. So whatever the reason, Balak, the king of Moab, he wanted to get rid of the Israelite nations, and he realized that their victories were a result of some supernatural force. So he called for Balaam, or Balaam as it's sometimes pronounced, called for Balaam to come from his enclave on Pathor, which is another way of saying Peter, which was on the Euphrates River, and to curse the Israelite nations. And he sent to Balaam and he asked him to come. Incidentally, the name Balaam is found on an inscription from Sukkoth in Jordan, present-day Jordan, dating, and this inscription dates from 750 BCE, or earlier. In 750 BC it was prepared, so it must have existed before then. And this is called Deir Allah, is the place, is identified as the settlement of Sukkoth from the Israelite times. It was in the territory of the Israelite tribe Gad. It's written in local Hebrew dialect mixed with Aramaic, and it's interesting, and it describes Balaam as some type of cultic figure connected with Celtic rituals, Canaanite type rituals of a fertility cult, similar to those we know that the Canaanites practiced, and also as were later practiced in Scandinavia in the Bronze Age, and it also has certain Israelite features in the inscription. The inscription definitely emanates from Israelite writers. And the different ways of translating. We have our translation of this text, others have slightly different ones. We understand the text as, on the whole, recognizing the existence of a supreme God, deity, with a lot of other minor deities in between. It definitely does show Israelite influence. It definitely is an Israelite text, but also shows Canaanite, foreign pagan influences. And it is a feature. It is something that has been found and exists and confirms the Bible story. We don't need confirmation, but it's good to know that such evidence exists. So Balak asked Balaam to come and curse his people, and so that he might drive them out of the land. So Balak wanted to drive the Israelites out of the land, and the different commentaries such as Nativat Shalom say that the Israelites were not then in the land, or they were about to enter the land, and it was known that once the Israelites entered the land, their power would be even greater than it already was. That the Israelites, once in the land of Israel, are much more powerful than when they are outside it. And we see this from the Jewish people, and we see this from other factors. And so we may say that in a sense Balak was an anti-Zionist. He was against the settlement of the land of Israel by Israelites. And President Obama has a similar case. He is similar to Balaam and Balak. He too seems to be against the settlement of Jews in Judah and Samaria, on the so-called West Bank, and of the Jewish state in general. So getting back to our story, he is told, Balak told Balaam, behold, there's a people come out of Egypt, which covered the face of the earth. Come now, curse me for them. Peradventure I shall be able to overcome them and drive them out. And so this is something we should realize, that more than half the nations of the earth hate the Israelite nations, hate the Jewish people. Most declarations of the United Nations are in denigration of the state of Israel, even as if they don't have any other problems to concern them. Whereas other nations do horrible things to their own peoples or to other peoples, and no one really cares. But if the Jews do anything to the Arabs or to anyone else, they are horrified, and they take diplomatic action against it, and make protests and exert influence against us. Even though this is not justified, this is the reality. And so Balaam was like this. He was like one of these non-Israelite nation peoples who hate Israelites. Balaam seems to have hated the Israelites more than Balak did. Balak was more interested in weakening the Israelites, or distancing them from himself, whereas Balaam seems indications he wanted to see them exterminated. He wished to curse them, but he was not allowed to do so. And so Balak sent messengers to Balaam, and he asking him to come and to curse the people. And Balaam asked the messengers to stay overnight, and that night God appeared unto him and told him, do not go with these people, you shall not curse them. Do not go with the messengers, you shall not curse the Israelites, for they are blessed. And so they took this message back, and the king of Moab, Balak, sent more messengers, and this time higher ranking princes, promising even greater wealth as a reward if Balaam would come. So once again Balaam asked the messengers to stay the night. And once again God appeared to him, and then God told him that he could go, but he should not say anything that God had not told him to. He should not say anything concerning the Israelites that God had not told him to say. So the next morning they set out, and on the way the angel of the Lord, an angel, was sent to prevent Balaam from going any further. And the angel stood in the way, in the pathway of Balaam and the ass, the female donkey and the messengers. And the ass saw the angel, but the others didn't, and Balaam didn't. And so the ass turned out of the path onto a field beside the path. And Balaam beat it. He beat his ass and forced it back onto the roadside, onto the roadway. They kept on going, and then they came to a section of the track where there were walls on both sides of the road, of the pathway, walls of vineyards, and the angel standing in the middle, and the ass, in order to avoid the angel, went to the side and crushed the foot of Balaam up against the wall. Once again he was angry, and he beat the ass. And still further on they kept going until they came to a section of the track where once again the angel was standing with his sword, unsheathed sword in his hand, in the trackway, in a section where there was no leeway to go around or to go to the side. So the ass simply lay down and refused to go any further, and Balaam was very angry, so he started to beat the ass, and then the ass started talking. And there was a dialogue ensued. And at the end of the dialogue between the ass and Balaam, at the end of the dialogue, Balaam's eyes were opened and he saw the angel of the Lord. And the angel warned Balaam once more not to say anything, to go ahead, but not to say anything that God Almighty would not tell him to say. And so they reached the place of Balak, the Kiryat Hutzot, that is the city of streets. Balak offered sacrifices. The next morning Balak, the king of Moab, took Balaam to the high places of Baal. It's overlooking a portion of the Israelite encampment. They built 7 altars, offered up more sacrifices. And then Balaam began to prophesy, and he prophesied that the Israelites would be separate from other nations, that they would be extremely numerous and blessed by the Almighty. See Numbers 23:7-10. And so Balak was angry that Balaam had blessed Israel instead of cursing them. And then Balaam reminded Balak that he had warned beforehand that he'd only be able to say that which God would put in his mouth. Nevertheless, Balak said perhaps they would have better luck if they went to another section, to another area where they would see another section of the Israelite peoples. So they went to a place called the Field of the Seers, Zophim, of the lookouts, or of the prophets, however you wish to translate this word. Zophim means people who see things, who look out. The top of the peak, Pisgah, the top of the mountain, and they repeated the process. They built 7 altars, offered up sacrifices. And then once again Balaam prophesied, and he said that God is not a man, or the son of man, that he should change his mind. See Numbers 23:19. And that the Israelites, in the realization of their future destined power, would be like unto a lion and a unicorn with the symbols of Great Britain. And Great Britain represents the 10 tribes of Israel, those 10 tribes of Israel. Eventually there were 12 tribes of Israel, the 12 tribes of Israel in the land of Israel, and they split into 2 different sections. The southern section comprised the tribes of Judah and Benjamin, and later on the Levites and small representative minority portions of the other tribes. Whereas the northern section comprised most of the 10 northern tribes. And all of these 10 tribes were taken into exile by the Assyrians. They lost consciousness of their ancestry, and they became the lost 10 tribes of Israel. We have shown that they eventually migrated to the west, and one of the areas they settled in was the Isles of Britain. The Isles of Britain, known as Great Britain, They had a lion and a unicorn as their symbol, and they represent the powers of Joseph. These are symbols of Joseph, and the lion and the unicorn are symbols of Joseph. And Britain did become a world empire, the greatest empire the world has ever known. And in a seamless fashion, Britain was replaced by the USA, by American supremacy in the world, which is in some sense an extension, a continuation of the British Empire. And so too, this Balak was once again angry at Balaam and blessed Israel instead of cursing him. And again, Balaam reminded him once more that he had warned in advance that he would only be able to say what God put in his mouth. So yet again, Balak decided to try his luck from another position, and he took Balaam to the top of the place of defecation. That is a literal translation of the name. Peor, the place of defecation. I don't know why they called it that, but that is the name that's given unto it. It's looking out on Yeshimon, literally desolation, an area called desolation. Once again they built altars and they offered up sacrifices, and Balaam prophesied. He said the Israelites would be found in the end times, in the continuation of the history, in fertile, healthy regions and in many oceans. As did indeed happen, the lost tribes are to be found in many oceans. Have the USA and the Atlantic and Pacific Ocean. We have the British and the offshoots of the British in the Atlantic Ocean, and the Scandinavians also from lost tribes, and the Dutch along the North Sea, and the peoples of France and other places where members of the Lost Ten Tribes are to be found. We also have South Africa in the Indian Ocean, and also Australia in the Indian and Pacific Oceans, and so on. So that is that in all the oceans of the earth, that is where the descendants of Israelites are to be found. It also indicates that the Israelites in a continuation would rule the waves, so would rule the seas, and they would be found in many waters, which is how indeed they are to be found. It also says that they who bless them will be blessed, and they who curse them will be cursed. Once more, that they would be like a lion and a unicorn and rule over other peoples, and that they would become the most powerful people in the world. So once again, Balak was angry with Balaam, and now he says that that Balaam had to return to his own land, and he would not receive any portion of the reward he had been promised. So in reply, Balaam prophesied. He gave him one more prophecy, this time apparently for free, of his own volition, it seems, and he prophesied that a Messiah would arise from Israel in the end times, and this Messiah would destroy Moab and the people of Seth and take control of Edom. He would destroy the Amalekites and the Canaanites, that is the Rechabites, who were from Midian, through Jethro, who were destined to attach themselves to Israel and to link up with the lost 10 tribes of Israel and to be exiled with them. And he prophesied about them that they would be taken away with the 10 tribes when the Assyrians conquered them. The descendants of Canaanites would be taken away with those tribes of Israel, would be exiled with them by the Assyrians, but when the 10 tribes return, they too would return alongside them. And we have indications that wherever the lost 10 tribes were, so too the Rechabites alongside them. And in the Second Temple times, Jewish tradition was that the Rechabites were to be found in the Isles of Britain. This is documented. This is documented by works, apocryphic type works, but whatever the works are, the fact is that this tradition existed. They also prophesied that in the end times there would be wars on the seas with ships from Kittim, and Assyria and Eba would be involved. See the book of Numbers 24, verses 24 to verses 17 to 24. And then Balaam and Balak departed. After that, the Israelites began to fornicate. They began to fornicate, to have sexual intercourse with the young women of Moab who were hanging out around their camps. But we understand from biblical texts and other places that Balaam had advised Balak and the elders of Moab and Midian to do this, to prostitute their daughters in order to destroy the Israelite peoples. And the Israelites were coupling together with these Moabite women, and the Moabite females were then seducing them and inducing them to practice idolatry, to make some type of sacrifice to their idols. And God was angry, and he commanded Moses and the elders of Israel to kill all the offenders, all of the idolaters. But apparently the Israelites were lax in carrying out this commandment. And one of the Israelites, actually a prince, as we know later, from the tribe of Simeon, he took a woman, a Moabite woman, also a princess, and he took her into a tent to publicly have intercourse with her. And a plague broke out among the people. And Phinehas the son of Eleazar, son of Aaron, brother of Moses, Pinchas that is, Pinchas, he took a lance and he raced into the tent where they were having it on, and he drove the lance through the lower part of their bodies, thus uniting them, putting their bodies together in an internal embrace, as if to say. And the plague was stopped, but in the meantime about 24,000 Israelites had already perished. And we know that one of the intentions of Balaam had been to sow separation between Jacob and Israel, according to the Bible, according to the Hebrew text. The curse and the denunciation that Balaam was asked to say in Hebrew used words such as error, connoting belittlement and separation, as if a section of the intended curse was to separate Judah and the 10 tribes of Israel, as indeed happened. But this indeed in history did happen, but it happened in such a way that it potentially becomes a source of greatness, a source of blessing, an enablement to fulfill certain divine tasks that these peoples had to fulfill, but that ultimately they will be reunited and become one nation. And in principle the separation is a curse rather than a blessing, and the curse should be undone, and Israel and the Jews, the 10 tribes and the Jews, should once again become one united people. And we can do what we can. We can do what we can to further this by living good lives, and also by helping our organisation, Brit-Am, Hebrew Nations, that works towards proving where the lost 10 tribes are, bringing this knowledge to the attention of the public as much as we can, or as well as we can, and also working towards the coming together of the 10 tribes of Israel with Judah, a reconciliation. In other words, we work for, our goals are research, revelation and reconciliation, researching where the lost 10 tribes are, proving where they are. We have shown that they are amongst Western nations, publishing this knowledge, revealing it, research, revelation, and also bringing together Judah and the 10 tribes. That is revelation. May the God of Israel bless all of us. Thank you.